the World Center of Broadcast Media, WCOBM.com. My name is Guy Dawson, and I am the managing member of Classy Communications, a full-service media and marketing company. And if you would like to bring greater recognition to your business, your organization, or yourself personally, please contact us at 702-845-6129 or visit our website, classycommunications.net. We are broadcasting to you live from the Gene Woods Racing Experience in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, just a stone throw from the Las Vegas Strip, and we have the queen of all media, Corintha Turvalon, is in the studio. She doesn't steal my stone line like so many of my other co-hostesses have been stealing it. And
No, I just do my own thing. I'm a rebel.
right, I actually feel uncomfortable when somebody doesn't steal my intro. How have you been, Corintha? We missed you.
Good.
We missed you last week.
I missed the show last week. I'm so used to doing it every Thursday. So, it's nice to be back in the saddle again and back on the ride, here today with you guys.
Yeah,
so,
wonderful to have you in the studio. And Jan Richardson is to my far left. She is married to a fellow Toastmaster.
Oh.
And as you know, we are big proponents of Toastmasters on this show, and Jan and I and her husband were together, I guess it was right around Christmas time.
It was Christmas time.
At a meeting, and we started talking about what Jan does for a living, and she was talking about working for the UMC Wellness Center, which is a hospital here in Las Vegas, and she was telling me about some of the things that she was doing to help people who had AIDS and hepatitis.
Mm-hmm,
and
correct.
I said, Jan, I'm going to have you on this show. I'm really big on promoting things that will make the community a better place, and we have to have platforms that we present things for people to be able to connect with that will help them.
We very much appreciate you having us on your show. We are doing a lot of good things, and we want to be able to talk about it and let other people know what we're doing.
Right, and so she says she had a good doctor that she wanted to put me in contact with, and he is in the studio today. Sir, will you introduce yourself?
So, I'm Dr. Jerry Cade, and I actually started the HIV program at UMC in 1985, so I was 8.
I wasn't.
That's a big achievement.
If somebody's going to sit there and do the math and try to figure out how long ago that was. So we started in 85, and actually it's a different world. Back from 85 to 96, people died, and nobody dies.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of taking drugs and you're fine. It's like controlling high blood pressure, basically.
I remember just a few years before that, I was young. I was in middle school, 11, 12, something like that. And it was the first time that I had ever heard about AIDS. I was asked to write an article in my health class about it.
Really?
Well, that's actually good.
And you're talking 1982. There was people didn't know hardly anything about AIDS at that time. And I had no idea that it would become such a national health issue when I was just a young boy writing that story.
At that moment in history, we hadn't even really identified the virus yet. In 82, that came about in 83 and 84, and the first drug was AZT, and that came out March 20th, 1987. So you were you're right at the beginning.
Yeah, and it was a death sentence, as you were saying a minute ago. It was just, it was a horrible thing whenever you heard that someone had advanced from having HIV to
having AIDS. Yeah.
I remember the first time I was working in the emergency room. It was 1982, 1983, and we had a patient come in. It was the first patient in Kentucky that had this disease. Nobody really knew what it was, and the infectious diseases doctor came in and told us about what to expect. And it was a scary thing, and it was a sad thing. So to see the progress that's been made, it has really been amazing.
Tell us how you help people at the UMC Wellness Center.
At the Wellness Center, we have a lot of opportunity to help people. We've got Dr. Cade and a number of our other doctors that treat and specialize in HIV and hepatitis. We have patients that come in that, for both of those, and then we have lots of other additional services that we provide. We have case management. We actually We have psychiatrists, we've got social work, we've got a lot of things that help these patients get through and get on their medications. Our goal is to get them on medications and to getting care.
One of the things that we were talking about that night when we got together was the fact that something that Dr. Cade touched on a second ago is that because AIDS and HIV have become treatable, it's not nearly as prominent in the news
that's true.
As it used to be. I know even 10 years ago or 15 years ago. How does that affect your ability to be able to really help people? Because it's not as if people aren't getting AIDS and getting HIV. How are you able to keep yourself relevant when it's a topic that's obviously very relevant that is not being promoted as much as it used to?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly that you'd pick up a paper and every other story was on HIV kind of in the late 80s and early 90s. On some level, I think part of what has happened now is it's entrenched. So, you don't need that front end news like you did back then, because what the services Jen's describing are the services we get under the Ryan White grant. Ryan White was a program passed in 1994 and named after the kid in Indiana, a really nice kid.
I remember him.
He had hemophilia, got his HIV from transfusions. So that's how we're able to provide the services. So there's now the awareness. It's a bipartisan issue, these days. So there's not nearly the need as much. Publicity is always good, regardless, for help a cause. But it's not the same desperate need that we had, say, in the early 80s to get attention, because back then it wasn't only not bipartisan, it was just a few people in one party and that's it. But that's changed.
The other thing that goes on at the Wellness Center is we take care of HIV-infected pregnant women, and we do a lot of good work with them. The people that we see and treat, we have not had a positive infected baby for quite some time, a number of years.
2006 was the last time, and we actually had none for a long time before that. There's lots of success stories with HIV, but probably one of the coolest, I think, has been what happened with pregnant women. When I first started in '85, the dogma was if a woman came in who was HIV positive, the chances of her baby becoming HIV positive were 70%. And part of that reflects what we didn't know very much. We saw the sickest people, and so there were other women out there who weren't as sick. So we saw these sickest people with high viral loads, and we all thought that you could transmit the virus probably in utero. It turns out you can't. It's transmitted perinatally around the delivery. So just by controlling the delivery alone, we reduced that 70 to 25. And then in the late 80s, because we just had AZT, AZT was 87, the next drug was DDI in 91. So we just had AZT in the late 80s, and there was a clinical trial done with multiple centers throughout the country where they gave mom AZT, intravenous AZT during the delivery, and the baby took AZT for 6 weeks, and that 25% went down to 8%, and that's highly statistically significant. And now it's just a matter of being on medication. If mom's on medication, it's a matter of prenatal care. If mom's on medication, the baby's negative. Period.
Wow, that is great to hear.
Yeah.
So,
incredible. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean that's been just across the board one of the best stories. And we had no positive babies from early 90s till 2005. And then we had this horrible 17, 18 months with 4 in a row. And it's just because we'd dropped our guard. We weren't paying attention. Now, some of that we couldn't help. If mom drops into the labor and delivery, 8 centimeters dilated, not on therapy, and the viral loads in the millions, and that was 3 out of the 4. You can't fix that. There's nothing you can do at that point in time. Probably. I mean, you try, because it's worth it, but you can't really fix that.
But one of the things we do is partner. We have really strong partnerships with the community, the Southern Nevada Health District, Nevada Care Program and with UNLV. We also partner with AFAN and Community Counseling Center, and all those, and NAERS program. All of those agencies work together to make sure that this mama is taken care of during pregnancy, and then the baby is taken care of as well after delivery. So it's a big community effort that goes into it. It's a Ryan White based program mostly, but they help support that. So if it wasn't for that program, I'm not sure if we could deliver the type of services we deliver. But you know, to having a psychiatrist on staff, it's a really hard diagnosis even now, even though there's treatment. The patients that we serve are, you know, they're impacted by it. And so we have a community counseling center that helps us, and we have on-site psychiatrists. And actually, the Ryan White program has been significant, and their goal is to make sure that patients are healthy and they live a normal life. And it's effective, it works.
And the psychiatrist is for the staff too.
Yes.
For emergency psychiatric
at the Wellness Center.
That's such wonderful news, and I think that it's fantastic that the work that you're doing. And one of the things that I think that people kind of take for granted is, you know, is that there are centers available for these kind of services here in the U.S. and here in Las Vegas, and it's fantastic what you're doing. I actually have a very good friend of mine who's in Nigeria, and she's the executive director for an organization called Education with the Vaccine, or I think, yes. I'm probably getting the name wrong. But basically what she does is, over in Nigeria, it's very hard to get factual information regarding your status in terms of what your health and your sexual and reproductive rights are, in terms of STDs, being pregnancies, all of those kinds of things. When you're looking at getting information within your own community as a young person, sometimes you're getting information that's based more on culture and tradition, not factual scientific information that could actually help you. So she's actually, I just wanted to put this out there for our viewers, she's actually fundraising to be able to provide that information free of charge for young people. So I'll have that on my Facebook, on Corintha Tervlon's Facebook. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say we should talk after the show, because a nurse practitioner that I work with, happens to work with Dr. Easy, Dina Patel, is also, they go to Nigeria as well through Healthy Sunrise Foundation and do a lot of good work over there. And we, through my nursing organization, Association of Nurses in AIDS Care, we are doing a fundraiser, and part of the funds that we raise will support that effort.
Oh,
so
fantastic.
Definitely we should connect.
Yes.
One of the things that really stood out, Jan, when we were talking that night for quite a while, about an hour, we talked about different things related to her work, and it was the social aspect of a person being diagnosed with HIV or having AIDS, and them having needs that your facility provides, the Wellness Center.
We do a lot of different things, and socially, yes. I mean, as far as the nurses there, Dr. Cade, a lot of the Dr. Farabi, a lot of things that we do support the community, and maybe they don't necessarily have anything to do with the Ryan White program, but they do, like we go into the community and do a lot of different things to help raise awareness. And for our nursing organization, for example, we just did a educational program for nurses and physicians to help educate them and to keep them up to date with what's going on, and to let them not forget what the history has been, because Dr. Cade has been here, he's seen the whole thing. I saw it in the early days, and then I got away from it for a long time. It was a scary thing. I commend this guy right here for doing the things that he's done and holding on all these years. It's amazing.
But I was 8, don't forget. You say all these years, and that makes it sound like I'm very old.
Yeah, I was around then too.
Yeah, I already just told you how old I was, so that just shows we've been around for a while.
I had a question for you, actually. I feel like we touched on it a little bit earlier, but I feel like, do you feel like culturally the stigma has gone away in terms of it being, I remember when it first came out, and people were very quick to think of it as a gay disease or homosexual disease. And of course that we know that that's definitely not the case, and that Ryan White case obviously broke a lot of that kind of stereotype for people. Now, according to statistics, I do understand that, that statistics show certain things, but do you feel like the stigma has gone away? Do you feel like people still feel like, how do you think culturally things have changed?
It's changed. I mean, it's gone away. I mean, nothing goes away. I mean,
Right.
My mother, when I started doing all this, my mother told me that my granddad had cancer, and she said everybody, when he had cancer in the 30s and 40s, acted like we did with the initial things with AIDS. It's anything outside the box and unusual. We start out by being afraid for whatever reason, and so it certainly changed. It's not like it was. One of the first patients I took care of had capsulocytoma, so he had lesions on his face, but he desperately wanted to get out of his house and go to see a show. So I think there were about 8 of us. We said, well, go with us. I mean, so we all went to see La Cage, as a matter of fact. I remember, but and the first time he'd been out of his house for months, so those days are gone where you have that kind of stigma, but it's still scary, I mean, what Jan was alluding to, every patient, this is not science, but this is lots of years of watching, everybody finds out they have HIV and they justifiably skits out for about 6 months, plus or minus a bunch on either side, but then everybody gets to the point where they've kind of inculcated the disease into their life and say, okay, I got to deal with this, and it becomes okay. Now that's from an individual's perspective, and then there's the interactions, and probably in the gay community, it is more, because it's been a bigger deal for a longer period of time, that it's less of a stigma than some of my heterosexual patients are the ones that are, and justifiably they say, how do I go to a bar, pick somebody up and say, by the way, I have HIV, and fortunately all of them are responsible enough to want to do that. I mean, they certainly have never suggested, I'm just not going to tell them, but it's hard. It's got to be hard.
Absolutely.
For me, you were touching on how things have changed. I mean, I've kind of been following this disease in a lot of ways, but just through the basketball player Magic Johnson.
Yes.
And I remember in the early 90s when he was diagnosed with HIV, and there were players who did not even want to play.
Didn't want to play it because actually Magic Johnson made the biggest difference of almost anybody for getting tested. I mean, he did everybody a big favor because patients that had not been willing to test before, because Magic had HIV, they said, okay, because Magic has it.
He was
it's
so
okay
open about what he had done, and he is an advocate right off the bat, and he's been so successful in his life. Here he is, 25 or 6 years later, and he's just been named president of the Lakers.
He that was one of the single best things that happened, not for him, of course, but for the rest of us.
The other thing that I don't want to forget is the new treatment which is out there, PEP and PrEP, and post-exposure prophylaxis for those who have been exposed, if they get in right away, and it's something we do at UMC Wellness Center. And also PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis, if you feel that you have been, or you're with a partner, or you have the risk of being exposed, then that's a treatment.
You're 22 and you don't have a partner, and there's not going to be just one.
There you go.
That stage of life.
Yes.
I should have immediately turned that over to you. Why did I do that?
Yeah, I think one of the things that has come out of the whole epidemic, or the whole experience that this country and this world has had with HIV, is constructive dialogue, and that people through the years have really grown up.
Right.
It's been wonderful to see that in people.
Yeah, that, and the science, in retrospect, it felt too slow in the 80s and 90s. But looking back, we started, it's 81, June 5th, 1981 is the CDC report that we count as the beginning of the AIDS epidemic in the U.S. So since that time, all that we have learned scientifically, not only with respect to viruses and how to treat them, but it secondarily helps with our treatment of cancers and things like that. I mean, it's just been a plethora of new scientific information that we would have never thought about before.
It's such a pleasure to have the both of you on the show today, Jan and Dr. Kate. And how can people connect with you at the UMC Wellness Center?
If you have a need, you think you need to come in to be seen, or if you have hepatitis and think you need to be seen, you can contact us at 702 383-2691. That's like all of a sudden.
Make that one more time?
383-2691.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you both so much for stopping by.
Great, thanks. Thank you. Appreciate it.
We're going to take a short commercial break, and when we come back, Dee Ennis is going to help us to get healthier with life shots. Corintha?
Yes, absolutely. We're ready.
Stay tuned. We'll be back in a few minutes.